Time now for Flashback, a recap of stories that made headlines during this week. We begin with the Federal High Court's ruling in Abuja on Monday this week that refused Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele's request to restrain INEC and the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, from preventing him from his presidential ambition. And the governor, through his counsel, Michael Zekome, a senior advocate of Nigeria, told the court that he can contest for the position of president of the country without vacating his position as CBN governor. Also on Monday, we told you that students in most Nigerian universities may have to stay at home for another 12 weeks. And this followed the action by the Academic Staff Union of Universities extending its ongoing industrial action. Well, ASUU says the decision was taken after its National Executive Council meeting held at the Comrade Festus Iyayi National Secretariat at the University of Abuja. A statement signed by ASUU's president, Professor Emmanuel Osodeke, says the decision is to give government enough time to satisfactorily resolve all outstanding issues. Tuesday now in Abuja, where the Upper Legislative Chamber of the National Assembly passed a bill seeking to enable statutory delegates to vote at the congresses or conventions of political parties. This followed the expeditious consideration of the legislation during plenary, which scaled first, second, and third readings within an hour and was passed by the lawmakers after consideration by the committee as a whole. The Deputy President of the Senate, Ovie Omo-Agige, who sponsored the bill to amend the 2022 Electoral Act, says the bill assented to by President Muhammadu Buhari in February only recognizes ad hoc delegates.
A restful holiday. Before them is a bill to amend Section 84, subsection 8 of the Electoral Act 2022. This amendment is to allow for the inclusion of statutory delegates into the political party voters register to enable them vote at the congresses or conventions of political parties.
Pleasure to have the privilege of leading the debate on this very important bill. We seek to amend the Electoral Act 2022 to make provision for delegates who not been elected ad hoc delegates.
A cross-section of lawmakers who supported the bill says this amendment is a welcome development as it will give most of them the opportunity to vote during party convention.
And most of us will not have the liberty of voting during the party's convention. But having said that, Mr. President, we still have a lot of sections in the Electoral Act that we need to look into.
This error, which led to us coming back to look at the correction, was something that happened inadvertently. I don't think it was the intendment of this Halo Chamber, neither was it the intendment of those who perfected the document to send to Mr. President.
Electoral Act of 2022 that we passed this year has a deficiency that was never intended, and that deficiency will deny all statutory delegates in all political parties from participation in congresses and conventions. And therefore, such an unintended clause has to be amended before the party primaries start.
Those identified as statutory delegates include the President, Vice President, members of the National Assembly, governors and their deputies, members of the State Houses of Assembly, chairmen of councils, councillors, members of the National Working Committee of the political parties, and others.
Still on Tuesday, INEC insisted it will not extend the existing timeline for party primaries. Chairman of the agency, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, made this known While speaking at a consultative meeting with leaders of political parties in Abuja, insisting that the timeline for primaries remains fixed between April the 4th and June the 3rd. Abid Alawal has more.
This is the first meeting of political parties since the Electoral Act was signed. The Independent National Electoral Commission says 18 political parties have forwarded the schedule of activities for their primaries. INEC Chairman Mahmoud Yakubu maintains that there will be no review of guidelines. He insists political parties must have a smooth and transparent process in their primaries, as that will save the Commission from constant litigations.
There are so many interrelated activities that are associated with the timelines which must be carried out. Any review to extend the timelines for one activity will affect other activities and put unnecessary pressure on the political parties and the Commission. This will ultimately result in more complications than what the extension seeks to achieve.
But the Inter-Party Advisory Council is asking for a shift in the date of submission of candidates to 4th of August. This, it says, is prompted by certain circumstances and developments that have hampered the compliance by political parties to the initial timetable.
Some of the constraining developments which we believe were not considered and therefore not factored by the INEC while drawing up its schedule of activities includes the following: the Christian Lenten season and the Muslim fasting in the month of Ramadan, respectively, followed by the celebrations of Easter and Eid al-Fitr Salah, in which the vast majority of party members were involved. The developments inevitably, therefore, greatly disrupted planned activities and programs of political parties, leading to the loss of about 2 weeks out of the allotted time of the timetable.
The meeting continued behind closed doors, where decisions on the final outcome of the proposition were reached. The Independent National Electoral Commission had earlier slated 3rd of June as the final date for submission of party candidates to the Commission.
President Muhammadu Buhari on Wednesday handed down a 5-day ultimatum to all members of the Federal Executive Council aspiring for any political position to quit. The ministers affected have until May the 16th to comply with the directive. However, the presidential instruction excluded the Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, because he is an elected member of the cabinet. The Minister of Information said this directive might also involve political appointees if the need arises. Still on Wednesday, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited disclosed that the recent fuel queues in Abuja are likely caused by low loadouts at depots, which usually happens during long public holidays. The NNPC disclosed this in a statement while reacting to the reappearance of fuel queues in Abuja.
The appointment of several ministers in President Muhammadu Buhari's cabinet has been short-lived. They have been shown the way out in compliance with Section 84, subsection 12 of the 2022 Electoral Act. States governors have already directed appointees in their cabinet to comply with the provisions of the Electoral Act. But members of the Federal Executive Council remained in office and also continued their campaigns for various elective positions. Now it appears the chicken has come home to roost. The outcome of this week's Federal Executive Council meeting has ended their continued stay in office.
My mandate from the President is that all members of the Federal Executive Council vying for office will have to resign their appointments on or before 16th of May 2022. If there's going to be any amendment or any inclusion, you will be informed in due course.
A new guideline released on the 26th of April by the leadership of the All Progressives Congress stipulates that political appointees should resign at least 30 days before the conduct of primaries. It seems federal government appointees seeking to contest on the platform of the APC may have already contravened this guideline by waiting to be pushed out of office.
Mr. President has the right to ask to appoint members of his cabinet, reshuffle them, replace them, and to that extent, I think he has the right to say those of them that he wants, who are serving him, who he has appointed, and they want to run for office, irrespective of circumstances that he, as Mr. President, who has the power of nomination, I think he has the right to ask them to resign.
In the coming days, the law will be put to test by different political interest groups seeking different interpretations of the law as the rush to contest for various offices in next year's general election gathers momentum.
In investigations, the NNPC Limited explained how the adulterated petrol was imported from Belgium undetected, and as well as the oil companies that brought them in.
All seemed to have been resolved after a fashion, but the past 2 days, queues have returned to filling stations in Abuja. A tour around some filling stations in the FCT shows that the queues are not thinning out soon. While some stations had long queues, others were closed for business. Motorists in the FCT complain about how the present situation is affecting them.
I had to come out very early, about 6 a.m. I've been queuing. They just opened the fuel station now, and still I have not got in to buy petrol.
We have been here for more than 3 hours now. We cannot get fuel, and see a lot of cars have been hitting themselves, trying to separate them. For it's a hell in Abuja right now.
Situation is terrible in the country now. We are not happy about what is going on in this country now. Look at everywhere, every stations. They are not selling. They are not giving us fuel.
Black market fuel vendors are using the opportunity to have a field day as motorists who cannot wait on long queues buy from them, and they get to sell between 300 naira or 350 naira per litre at against the 165 naira sold by the petrol station.
My 1 litre now I can tell you 350, but last we said 300 too. So like 10 litre is 3.5, but we said 3,000 since there's no good market like that. But once there's real scarcity of fuel, we sell it 3.5, 4,000.
Today I bought 10 liters at black market. I was going to court. I bought 4,000 naira. This morning again, I have bought 4,000 naira.
The NNPC has assured all residents in the FCT and indeed all Nigerians that there is ample local supply of fuel and the national stock is in excess of 2.5 billion litres, which is sufficient for more than 43 days.
Thursday now, President Buhari appealed to the Academic Staff Union of Universities to consider the plights of students who are currently staying idle at home. The President made this appeal at the 19th National Productivity Day and conferment of the National Productivity Order of Merit Award in Abuja. The President equally urged students in public tertiary institutions to exercise patience as the federal government is striving to address the nagging issues in the nation's university system within the ambit of available resources. President Buhari's appeal came 2 days after the union extended its industrial action, accusing the government of unwillingness to address its demands.
This opportunity to call on the Academic Staff Union and the universities to consider the plight of our students and call off the ongoing strike action.
Also, President Buhari signed into law on Thursday 3 bills aimed at improving the anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing, as well as prohibiting the proliferation of financing framework in Nigeria. The bills are the Money Laundering Prevention and Prohibition Bill, the Terrorism Prevention and Terrorism Bill, as well as the Proceeds of Crime Recovery and Management Bills, all for the year 2022. The President says the bills were in tandem with his administration's commitments to fight corruption and illicit financing activities, as well as critical to the governance agenda and the development of Nigeria. That same day, the federal government honored 37 individuals and 11 groups for their contributions to the nation's productivity growth at the conferment of the 2019-2020 National Productivity Order of Merit Award. President Buhari noted that restoring legitimacy to education is central to achieving productivity.
The 19th edition of the National Productivity Order of Merit Award for 2019 and 2020, guest lecturer and former principal, King's College, Sylvester Onoja, says education not only drives productivity, but is also the foundation of development. He calls for a split of the Ministry of Education into two to achieve maximum productivity.
You cannot be a Minister of Justice if you are not a lawyer. The same thing should apply to education. At least at the level of Ministry of Education, basic education, it is only those who are trained as educationists that should be ministers of education.
Labour and Employment Minister Chris Ngige also have some vocational training and skill acquisition.
Vocational education and training to become the center point of our educational training, at least for the next 2 decades.
For some of the award beneficiaries, it is a challenge to do more.
We want to dedicate this award to everybody in Lagos and across Nigeria that had a hand in fighting off COVID and keeping Nigeria and the Nigerian economy open and preventing us from dying from the disease and the consequences of a collapsed economy.
Posthumous awards were also given to deserving icons. One of them, Stella Adadevo, who died during the Ebola outbreak.
It means so much to us that even up to 8 years after her death, the federal government has taken this step to now recognize her and give us this award on her behalf.
Since 1991 that the award began, 382 individuals and 97 organizations have so far been honored.
On Friday, President Buhari condemned the killing of Deborah Samuel, an undergraduate female student of the Shehu Shagari College of Education in Sokoto, over alleged blasphemy. In a statement by his special assistant, Garba Shehu, President Buhari noted that Muslims all over the world demand respect for the holy prophets, but where transgressions occur, as alleged to be the case in this instance, the law doesn't allow anyone to take matters into their hands. The President directed the Ministries of Information and Culture, as well as Police Affairs and Communications and Digital Economy, to work with GSM providers and tech companies to help contain the spread of false and inflammatory information through social media. The President extended the nation's condolences to the family of the deceased students and wished all those injured a quick recovery. He called for calm among the general population while investigation is ongoing to find out the remote and immediate causes of the incident. Finally, on Friday, with about 9 months to the 2023 general election, the Independent National Electoral Commission allayed fears that the polls might not hold due to security threats. INEC Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu made the remarks earlier that day in Abuja at the second quarterly meeting of the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security. Mr. Yakubu believed there is enough time for the security agencies to address the situation to ensure that people go to their various polling units without concerns over their safety. Although the INEC chief admitted that the present situation was enough to be worried about, he was confident that the threats would be brought under control to allow for elections.